time to find out whether or not it is possible for a creature to oppose me and still come out okay on the other end. And so he was allowed to have awesome power. There's a staggering passage of Scripture found in the 4th chapter of Luke. And you may turn to that if you would for a moment, because if you don't turn to it, you may not even believe that it is there. Luke chapter 4, Jesus and Satan are having that famous confrontation. And you'll notice the devil is asking Christ to worship him. It's very important for you to realize that the reason is because Satan is just absolutely consumed with pride. Just absolutely consumed with pride. He is so full of envy. You know, when he sees us being able to approach God, when he sees people redeemed, he is utterly frustrated and angry. But I'm ahead of myself. That's to come in another sermon somewhere along the line in this series. But notice what Jesus says to him in verse 4. Man shall not live by bread alone. Verse 5. And he led him up and showed him all the kingdoms of the world in a moment of time. And the devil said to him, I will give you all this domain and its glory. Notice. For it has been handed over to me, and I give it to whomsoever I wish. Awesome. Unbelievable. Now, if he were saying this to us, we'd rebuke him. We'd say that he's a liar. And he always lies. He almost always lies. The only time you know that he's telling the truth is when he says, I'm lying. Then you know he's telling the truth. But he's not talking to you. He's not talking to me. He's talking to Jesus. And Jesus would have known better if he had been lying. And he says, all the kingdoms of the earth have been handed over to me, and I can give them to whomsoever I wish to give them. And Jesus didn't rebuke him. Awesome power. God says, retain your power over the earth. But God also said, what I'm going to do is to end up taking mankind who was created there in the Garden of Eden, and through the line of mankind, I'm going to bring a Redeemer who is going to crush you. And it's going to be a moral, spiritual battle, not just a crushing by raw power. But we're going to tough it out, and you are going to come out on the short end of the stick. So we have the Garden of Eden, which is part of our message next week. And then Satan tries to kill Jesus when he is born there in Bethlehem, when all of the boys 2 years old and under are killed in that vicinity. Evidently, he tried to kill Jesus there in Gethsemane because he doesn't want Christ to go through with the cross, and yet there was a part of him that wanted Christ to be crucified. It's the conflict of evil. But then Jesus Christ is put into that grave and he ascends into heaven, showing Satan, who has the power of death, that Jesus Christ can outdo him, and that Christ is the God of life and is stronger than Satan. So much so that Jesus could say just before he died, now is the judgment of this world, and now shall the prince of this world be cast out. And Paul says that Christ disarmed all principalities and all powers and made a show of them openly, triumphing over them in it. A total crushing took place at the cross. You say, well, if that's the truth, then why is it that Satan is still so active today? Why is he able to have so much power? Well, he's basically out on parole, and God is allowing him a long leash to do his thing because God is trying to prove a point. And Satan knows the point that God is trying to prove, by the way. This is not as if, he's ignorant of what God is up to, but he keeps trying to prove the point anyway. And he keeps trying to oppose God, even though God's point is that he wants to show the utter, total futility of any will that is opposed to God. The utter, total, may I use the word, stupidity of any will, whether it be human or divine. Whether it be human or angelic, I should say, who wants to take on God. What foolishness. You see, Satan is the prince of this world, and yet he cannot organize this world. You know what he's proving? He's proving that he can only be a destroyer. He can never be a builder. He's proving that even with his awesome power, he cannot bring about unity. He can only bring about division, confusion, conflict. And he is proving ultimately that he is not wise. He is not wise.
Yes, my friend, if you and I are in rebellion against God, we are not wise. This is Pastor Lutzer, and I'm so glad that you are listening to this series of messages titled, What is God Up To? And at the end of this broadcast, you'll be given information as to how you can receive this set of messages for yourself. Meanwhile, keep listening, keep praying, and keep witnessing to God's love.
That was Dr. Erwin Lutzer discussing Lucifer's greatest blunder. Next time on Running to Win, we'll conclude this expose on the origins of Satan the Destroyer. We believe this 8-part series will help you understand God's overall plan for the human race. What is God Up To can be yours on CD as our thank you when you give a gift of any amount to support Running to Win. For details, call 1-800-215-5001. That's 1-800-215-5001. On the internet, go to offerrtw.com. That's offerrtw, all one word, .com. Or write to Running to Win, Box 11174, Chicago, Illinois, 60611. Next week, our focus turns to mankind, the casualty, how you and I are affected by the cosmic struggle long ago. This is Dave McAllister. Join us for Monday's Running to Win.